This is Leicester Till I Die TV. Watch and subscribe on YouTube and listen on your podcast platform.
Hi everybody, Jerry Taggart here. Now be sure to watch Chris and Leicester Till I Die TV by subscribing on YouTube and following them on social media for all the latest Leicester City news and information. Come on you foxes!
Strap yourself in
because we're set up, switched on and ready to go.
Eight, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
And it's live.
Good evening, fellow Fox fans. How the devil are we? Well, that was it. That's it. The season's over. It seemed to go quicker than a rat up a drain pipe. I tell you, I've never known a season go so quickly before in my life. We've got a special on this evening. This is Leicester Till I Die TV. Good evening to you all. You can catch us live on YouTube at Leicester Till I Die TV. Please give that little subscribe button a click. We'd be very, very grateful. We're live on Facebook, Leicester Till I Die, the group. And if, like Miss Melina, you live in the Twitter sphere, it's at Leicester TID. Melina, do you ever go to sleep? Good evening to you. It's glad to have you back. Glad it all went well in hospital and you're back with us safe. It's nice to have you with us. As Andy Medhurst says, roll on next season. I can't wait. I'm bored already. And I tell you what, the Euros ain't going to do it for me. But I tell you what does do it for me.
Tielemans lining one up. Oh, what a goal! What a brilliant goal by Youri Tielemans. And the Leicester City fans go absolutely potty. They sense history. One of the great FA Cup final goals there from Youri Tielemans.
Wasn't it just? Hairs on the back of my neck still go up now. I still can't believe it. Got a couple of guests. We'll bring them straight in. Let's not hang about. You know the wise old sage. Good evening, Craig.
Good evening, Chris. Good evening, everybody.
Does that get the hairs on the back of your neck? Not I've got any hairs on the top of my head to go up, but the hairs on the back of my neck do when I listen to that. Does it for you?
Oh, sorry. I thought you meant introducing me on the channel. No, that doesn't. But yeah, reliving that goal, yes, definitely. And I think it will do forevermore.
Oh, I bet. I tell you what, how many times have you watched it on YouTube?
93.
And counting.
Well, I'm keeping count.
No. 93. That's like Julian Watts' golf score, isn't it, for a round? And I tell you what, we've managed to drag him out of the 19th hole. We're going to say good evening, Julian.
Evening, Chris. Evening, Craig.
Hi, Julian. How you doing?
Yeah, good. Thanks. Good.
What was the score today?
No. I had to have the day off because of this show, so I have actually just been to the pub to talk about golf. Actually, so yeah.
Oh, I'm glad to see you got your priorities right, Julian.
Absolutely.
We'll have to have a Leicester Till I Die golf day sometime.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that'd be great.
I can swing a bat myself, but maybe not to your level, Julian.
No, can I just say, if we're playing crazy golf, I might take you up on that. But if it's normal golf, I can just say with my eyes, I'm lucky if I can see the ball when it goes 6 foot in front of me, let alone any further.
We always need a caddy, Chris.
Yes. Well, if I could get that a caddy that could play for me, I'd be happy. David, good evening. How are you? And we're going to say good evening to Stephen, Ireland. Oh, I'm not sure what that's, and to Canada. Go. Okay. You might have to explain that one. And as Andy says, a goal worthy of winning a final. It certainly was. And we may be coming back onto that later, because you know me, never like to let a good story rest. But it is a season review. We've got a few things to go through. So let's kick it off and say it's not a bad season in the great scheme of things. European football for the second season running. A fifth place finish for the second season running, and FA Cup winners. You'd have taken that at the start of the season, wouldn't you, Craig?
Oh, definitely. And I think any realistic Leicester City fan would. I think it's only the way that the season panned out that it makes it tinged with disappointment. But when you look at where we've been, the aim was always to be in and around the European spots, and we've done that back to back 2 seasons running now, and we've got an FA Cup to put in the trophy cabinet as well. We'd have all taken that at the start of the season, and it shows how far we've progressed.
Yes. Andy says here, not bad, but it should have been better. And I don't know if we should welcome this lady in because she's a Spurs fan, but I guess, you know.
Indeed.
Yeah, in the sense of peace and welcoming, hello TM, and hello to David S as well. Julian, should it have been better, or were we punching above our weight for most of the season?
I don't think either. It's just where we are, and it's just how the season, turned out in the end. I mean, if we look at the closest results to the end of the season, you look at the Newcastle and obviously Spurs on the final day. But I mean, I'm sure we can go back. And we can look at a lot of games where maybe we got away with one and nicked something that we shouldn't have won, and maybe we left a few points behind somewhere. So, I see a lot of comments on social media, and I was asked the week before the cup final, would I take the cup final and 5th or lose the cup final and finish 4th? And I'd be absolutely delighted with what we've actually done. And I think it's just the expectations of people now, which isn't a bad thing. It's nice that fans have got the expectations that we should be doing, getting into the Champions League, and maybe we think that we've faltered. But I think it's far too easy, because one of the words I really don't like that I've seen in the social media is that we bottled it. We didn't bottle it at all. It was just the way the results went. We lost to a very good Tottenham team, and obviously I think the Newcastle performance and result was disappointing for me. But personally, it's been another fantastic season. There's another leap in progression from what we've achieved before, and every Leicester fan should be proud of the team and the club as a whole, and look forward to next season with great optimism.
Like you said there, Julian, and coming on to you, Craig, the question I'm asking there, did we bottle it? I mean, I don't think we did, but it's a question that is going around media. I've seen a few fans saying that 242 days there we were in the top 4, the only team that was in the top 4 all season, and for 2 seasons running it was their last. I mean, we were actually top at one point, but it's we are Leicester City. We like Julian said then, Craig, some of the points we've thrown away, but then you could also look at some of the points we gained, like had we played Manchester City a month later, we probably wouldn't have beaten them 5-2. So exactly. Julian made the good point there, didn't he?
Yeah, I think, if you looked at some of the results we didn't expect to get versus some of the points we've dropped, and you switched them around, we'd be about where you would hope us to be. It was only the fact that we hung around for a long time that makes it disappointing. The biggest disappointment, and I would say the only... I don't think we bottled it. Let me put that straight out there. I think in the end, injuries and the depth of squad sort of caught up with us a little bit towards the end of the season. When you looked at the benches that we had against Spurs, for instance, and Chelsea, it's another. They don't compare. The only criticism I would say is that it was really disappointing to be within 15 minutes of getting that spot and not being able to close out that game. Now I know it was an unfortunate error from Schmeichel to punch that one in. It wasn't a punch, to be honest. It was It was unfortunate. But I just think, it's one of the few questions that you may be able to pose to a question mark over Brendan in terms of seeing out particular games, in terms of keeping them a bit tighter. We could have thrown that away against Chelsea, albeit a very, very good team. But I think it was disappointing to get within 15 minutes and not just play a little bit tighter. And I know a couple of the subs he made, taking Maddison off for me, I thought was a bit of an error there, because the thing is, it's all right trying to hang on to a lead, but if you don't have anything going forward and you remove the threat, then you just invite the pressure. So, but that would be the only thing for me over the season. I don't think we bottled it. We just got caught out with the depth of squad and the injuries.
Julian, though, you don't lose, anything on the last, one game. It's a 38 game season, and they always say, don't they, the table doesn't lie. And you've got David here saying, and I agree with him, think injury cost us. When you look back at the start of the season, Christian Fuchs, who's leaving the club, I mean, he'd played more games this season than he's played in the past 3 altogether. It's I think we forget how well we were doing at the start, when that was probably during the period when we probably should have crumbled.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the other sides, Man United, Man City and Chelsea, certainly I think could put 2 separate 11s out that could compete in the Premier League. We certainly can't. And so then on top of that, with the injuries sustained, I think we've done remarkably well. I mean, we really have. I don't like to say overachieve, because I think we're a big club now. So maybe that would be doing the lads down a little bit, but we've performed to such a level with everything that we've had to cope with this season. I've really just come out of this so positive. I don't care about, the Champions League spot. Are we going to win the Champions League next year? Realistically not. We might have a good chance at having a good run in the Europa League, and that might be something that, we benefit as we keep building season after season after season. That might just be the thing that we do need to build upon. And, could we go and win that? That'd be an excellent target that isn't unachievable. It'd be a great ask for the squad and the manager and the players, but you could actually say we have got a chance of doing that. So for me, it was disappointing on the last day. See the goals going in and the other results, and the fact that Chelsea got beat, and if we'd have got the right result. But you've got to look at the entire picture of the club, not just the season. And where we're sitting now is absolutely a fantastic place that supporters couldn't have dreamed of 10 years ago. So I think we should just be thankful for everything that's happened in our recent history, and just look to push forward with a lot of positivity.
I'm so glad you said that, Julian, because I can blame you as much as me because of what I'm going to say, because I actually, yes, don't get me wrong, I was, when we were 1-0 up and 2-0 up and Chelsea were losing, I was running around the room as much as anybody thinking, yes, Champions League. Before the game, I was happy with the Europa League, and afterwards, when all my emotions are settled, I kind of agree with you, Julian, is the fact that another season in the Europa League wouldn't do us any harm at all. And I think the Champions League, and I don't know if you agree with both me and Julian here, Craig, the Champions League, whilst it would have been nice to go in, we've got a young squad. If we hadn't got the luck of the draw that we had last time we were in it, and we got, a group of death, and we got our arses whipped every week, it could be the killing of some of the players. So maybe the Europa League is better for us this season, gives us a chance to build on the squad, gives them all another pop at Europe, which is a completely different game, as we know, to the Premier League, and then maybe have a real go for the Premier League next season. Sorry, the Premier League, the Champions League, sorry.
No, I do agree. The Europa League is our level, to be honest. If you look at the squad we've got, that is our level. We're not a Champions League top 2 team. Even though we got through last time, you would probably all agree that we got probably the easiest group in the Champions League. we were seeded. We wouldn't be seeded this time, so we were going to pull some of the bigger boys.
Yeah.
And you're right, it could have knocked us back a little bit. I think the only bit where it comes in a little bit is the ability to hang on to the players that we've got and maybe attract one or two extra. But in terms of what they're trying to buy into and the progress of the club, it probably suits us better. The profile of the player that we go for in terms of their price point isn't probably Champions League ready players yet anyway. So it does give us a chance to build. And I think in the overall scheme of where we wanted to be and the progress, we're probably still even now overachieving. I think most people would have taken a mid-table position if you could throw in the FA Cup. So to be in Europe for 2 seasons running, that is what we want to be doing. You're not always going to get in the top 4, but you want to be in the shake-up. And we've been in the shake-up for the last 2 years. So, yeah, it's a positive, isn't it?
Melina, thank you for liking my shirt. That's just to remind you that we did win the FA Cup. Melina, as you all know, is an Arsenal fan, and she claims that I'm kind of always reminding her that we've won the FA Cup this year. I don't know where she gets that idea from. I have to be honest with you, but yes, Melina. There we go. Julian, Andy says that I think we had players who didn't step up when needed. Would you agree with that? I would struggle with that.
Yeah, I would. I mean, looking at the last few games, one that really did stick out for me, which maybe not a surprise, is still young, was Kalichi in the final. Thought he had a really poor game, and it just didn't work for him, and the things he tried didn't come off. He didn't look after the ball well enough, and that might be nerves of a big day. You never know. It is a big day for any young player. So, but as it comes to in general in the games, it's Premier League's the Premier League. It's such a difficult sort of league to play in. Man City have dropped a few points here and there, even though they've had a fantastic season at places they wouldn't expect to, and we've just done the same, and we've just dropped a few more, if I'm honest. So, I think we've got a really good squad. I think we do need some additions to it, but I think the future looks great with the youth of Luke Thomas has played in Europe, played in the final. Doesn't look out of place for me. I've been singing his praises all season long, and he's nowhere near the finished article, but he's certainly a fantastic prospect. Fofana, say no more. Tielemans only 23, player of the year. There's so many positives in that squad. It just needs, and the disappointment would be if we didn't add to it, because I think every big club will add to their squad. However good we think they are, there will be additions to the big club squads. And then that could be where, if we don't do that, where we could possibly sort of get left behind a little bit. So, hopefully, as the season's gone by, they've been looking at the targets and improving in areas that we need to improve in.
Craig, it's unforgiving, the Premier League, isn't it? That's the word.
Well, it is, it's a long season anyway, and for it to be condensed this season, it seemed to be, game after game after game, and no let up, no, even when there was European breaks, I think we were still tending to our wall wounds. So we've not had a break, I think, and on the back of the end of last season, again, people talked about, would there be a hangover from last season in the way that we finished? And I think you touched on it, Chris, that in those early weeks where we were really struggling with some of the injuries, we did fantastically well to maintain our position. And it is, and I think it's just showed the fact that not only is the squad thin, I'll throw this in as well, and it's maybe that something we'll come back to later on when you're talking about what's next for Brendan, is that there's clearly players in that squad that he doesn't fancy or he doesn't trust, and I think that's added to it as well, that he's got a bench of players that I'm not convinced that he trusts to put on the field, so that makes your squad even thinner.
That's true. That's true. And can I just say, Craig, it's so nice the fact that every week you're in a little different position. I'm actually gotten in my mind this. I know how your house is laid out because I'm seeing a different picture every time. So it's a different room and a different view. And I won't mention the flower that's going out of Julian's head.
The hairpiece.
No, boom, 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 boom. You throw me now, Julian. Where do I go now? Oh, yes. We're back in it. We were in it last year, the Europa League. Julian, disappointing, or did we know we got through the group and then got knocked out in the next round of 32? Should we have done better?
Yeah, personally, I looked at that game and I thought it was a very, very winnable, two-leg game, and I don't think they really offered anything that we couldn't cope with. It was more like they ground us down, if I'm honest. And even felt after the first leg when we came home, I thought, lessons learned. We can really have a look at what we did in the first leg, what we didn't do well, what we can do better. And I really, really fancied us in the second leg. And I was so surprised at, the performance and the manner in which we lost in. But again, that's probably the experience that we need to come up against a team like that and not get through, when I think, the whole club, manager and coaches included, and players would have expected us to progress from that point. So that'd be something, next season where we may come up against something similar and really make sure that we're putting those extra yards in the work and the analysis of the opponents and what have you. And just knowing that, the Champions League's hard, the Premier League's hard, and, the Europa League, there are no easy games in it, and when you get down to the last 32 in particular. And hopefully this season, again, we talk about progression, that, can we do a little bit better this year? And as fans, we should be happier if we can.
Craig, I don't know if you know. Craig's gone. I'll carry on with you. I don't know. I've got an ejector button here that I can press, and it shoots people out the chat. I mean, if you fail in the Champions League, you can get down to, you drop into the Europa League. I don't know if it's the fact that if you do badly in the Europa League, you drop down into the Europa Conference. And I'm still not 100% what this Europa, you can't even get my teeth in, Europa Conference is.
No. I mean, the thing with the Champions League, and when they drop out of that stage and they could come into the Europa League, I don't really quite agree with that, because, they failed in one competition and then they just got given a parachute. And it sort of alludes a bit to the elitism of the European League that was, presented to us, the other month. Why should they have another bite at a different cherry when they've failed at the first hurdle in that? And I just think the Europa League should be a totally separate competition. I love the fact that if you win it, you qualify for the Champions League. But I really don't appreciate that. If you do badly in a competition, you're actually rewarded by entering another competition, which you've probably got every chance of winning. I think it's really unfair on the teams who've, originally qualified for the Europa League.
I think the fact that, one of the finalists in there, I'm not sure about the other one, but certainly one of the finalists, as in Man United, were a dropout from the Champions League. Welcome back, Craig. I hope you had a good toilet break.
Yeah, it was lovely. Thanks.
We're still on the Europa League. We came top of the group, though, albeit on sort of goal difference. But you couldn't ask any more at that point, could you? We had a good run in the league part.
No, I thought we looked impressive, to be honest. ITM. Yeah, I thought we looked impressive, and I think that made it all the more disappointing when we were poor against Slavia Prague. I think by that time, particularly in the second leg, I think Brendan may have been having to pick and choose a little bit in terms of his team selections and where his priorities were. Seeing as how well we were doing in the league, we were still progressing in the FA Cup. I think at that point it became a little bit difficult for him, but it was disappointing, and it was disappointing in the manner I think that we went out. But yeah, I agree with Julian in terms of Champions League teams getting a second bite at the cherry. I don't think that happens in anything else, and I'm not sure if the champions or the Europa League dropouts get to go in the Conference League.
That was the
I don't think
question we
anybody
asked.
knows how that works, to be honest.
Yeah, we asked that question while you're on the toilet, but we're not sure. We don't know if anybody can check or not. But yeah, so like I say, we've got to think it's progression every year, isn't it? And maybe this year we'll get past. I mean, Brendan's got that. Julian, he's never got past the round of 32 in Europe in any competition. So, he's got that stigma to get over. But, he got over it with the FA Cup, taking us and winning that.
Yeah, and that's got to be his first target. Let's get to the 16, and if we can do that, that's a great achievement for himself. If next season we finish 7th and we're not in European football, then we can sort of pick the bones out of the season and say, yeah, do you know what? That is a bit disappointing because of where we've been in the last few seasons. But going back to our position right now, I think we're in a fantastic position. I'm frustrated with the fans who don't agree. Like I say, would we have taken this 5-6 years ago? Of course we would. This is a fantastic position to be in. The club is in such good stead. I know that a lot of other clubs will be looking at us with jealousy of the way that our owners conduct ourselves in retrospect of what's just happened recently, the way they look after the club, the fans, and the players. And I'm sure Tottenham, Arsenal and Everton, to name 3 clubs, would absolutely swap anything to be in our position right now. And they're not. Everton, while we might not consider them, they are a big club historically, but they've got, their manager's Carlo Ancelotti. They brought him in for a reason. He's going to transform that club, bring players in, and he has got that pulling power to bring players in. They've not
And he spent the money, hasn't he, as well?
He has spent money, exactly. He has spent money. Tottenham, the frightening cost of their squad. And then Arsenal, I know they're going through a bit of a transition and, Tottenham have sacked the manager. Arsenal have taken Arteta. I do hope they stick by him because, I know Pep speaks highly of him and he seems like a good young coach, but this is going to be a really important season for him. And yet we're 5th with an FA Cup win and European football guaranteed. So for me, absolutely amazing position. I think everyone at the club should be proud. We've absolutely smashed it. Let's not look behind us. Let's look ahead.
I don't know if Miss Molina's still here. I know she's doing an Arsenal chat at the same time. Being a woman, obviously she can multitask. I think I'll translate for you there, Miss Molina. When Julian said that Arsenal are in transition, what he meant was that Arsenal are shit, basically. So let's not. And I think you speak a lot of the Arsenal. Yeah, I think a lot of I do have the English to ex-footballer translation Bible here, but I think if you speak to a lot of Arsenal fans, I don't think they want to stick with Arteta. But hey, that's up to them. But that is a very good point, and you brought it up here. We'll move on to the next subject before we take a quick break, and that is the old ESL. If it comes up, is it? There we go. Oh no, yep. Tottenham, the last trophy they won was 2008. Since then, Leicester City have won the Premier League in 15-16. And just in case Melina's still watching and she's forgotten, we've won the FA Cup 2020-2021. Craig, shouldn't we have been invited?
There's an argument.
There's
an argument to say that we should have been, but I think they looked... it wouldn't have surprised me if Tottenham and Daniel Levy begged to be in that, to be honest, because I'm not sure, they would have been invited. What you've got, and I would say this to look at for Leicester, any Leicester fans who are not sure in terms of how well we've done in the past couple of years.
Thank you, David.
Spurs were a big club in the 60s. They've not been a big club since. The reason they've been invited is that they hung around the top 6 for about 5, 6, 7 seasons in a row. They have a really good stadium and a great setup behind them. That's the only reason they've been invited. We're on that journey. We're now hanging around the top 6. We've done it for 2 seasons running. There's nothing to say that if that were to happen in 3 or 4 years' time, that ESL, that we wouldn't be invited because we have the infrastructure in place now. not necessarily the stadium, but the owners are looking to do that as well. What I would have hoped would be that if we were invited, our owner turned it down. That would be my wish, and I think he would have done.
Yeah. Julian, I mean, the whole thing was probably the biggest disaster in football since ITV Digital, wasn't it? At least ITV Digital lasted longer than that.
Yeah, for me, it's, what kind of people do you want involved in football? At the top, and I've said this for 20 years now, the people who own football clubs really don't have much grasp on, the game itself, how it's played and the ins and outs of it. They're very enthusiastic fans, but we've now moved away from those kind of people to people who just come in and it's an investment. And so the principal, topic for them is income. And when you get into that, the likes of this European League, it ticks their boxes because they know of the money that it's going to bring in. And it's like, for me, it's like the worst reason to get involved in something, especially in football. It is in most walks of life, but particularly in football. Money should not be a motivator to do things. We've got a fantastic sport with a huge history. The Premier League is an absolutely amazing product. The Champions League is a fantastic product. And we've got the Europa League supporting it. I really couldn't see why we would want to break away into something else that really just meant a lot of money. And talking about Spurs and, unfortunately, to Melina about Arsenal, is that they could have gone into that league and got beaten every week, because right now they are not pulling up any daisies, whatsoever. Yeah. And it could have been a really, really bad experience. And I think I agree with Craig with the reason why they invited, but I think also they seem to have, they probably haven't got more financial clout than us and our owners, but we're not just going to throw money at something ridiculously. We're building something over a period of time, which is why we've got a good manager who I think would be an absolutely idiot to leave us, because he sees what's happening around him, and you can see how happy he is there. And I think he'd be a fool to leave, and that's just another topic. But what we've got now is owners who are motivated by money and nothing else. They've got no idea of the history of the game in England, the history of the clubs that they actually own. They don't know that history, I don't think. They just, they come in and they own the club, and what can they do with it? They've got all these franchises in America and, wherever else. So it makes my blood boil a bit, to be honest, because it's absolutely the opposite of what we want in our game in England.
I think it's
Julian Watts, ITV.
I think the club's in it, and I think you, particularly Arsenal and Spurs. You're right, Julian. We're naive to think that they wouldn't, over a number of years, turn out to be a divide in that as well. That the bigger clubs would get bigger and the bottom ones would start to fall away, because that's how it works. People want to be involved with success. So the top players will want to be involved with the players that were the teams that were near the top of that every year. And there's going to be, someone has to finish bottom, whether you get relegated or not. Somebody's being finishing near the bottom. So the desire to join those teams would fall away as well. I think as soon as they had no way in or out in terms of relegation and promotion, it was a dead duck, because people wouldn't get behind it. And that is the fundamental thing of sport, that you get your reward based on what you do on the pitch.
I'm sorry, TM. I forget you're in the chat and the Spurs fan when we have a go at Spurs. Having an Arsenal and a Spurs fan in here maybe isn't the best idea. But, I mean, it came and went very quickly, Craig. Let's be honest with you. You've had longer toilet breaks than that lasted, haven't you?
Is this your new running gag, Chris?
This is my new running gag, and I'll make it last till the end of the show. Yes. Oh, right. I'm feeling flushed.
Move on.
And I'm sorry, it's just my toilet humour, but no, it did. Daddy jokes at the best, eh? I mean, it all joking aside, it actually had the adverse effect that it brought all the fans together. I mean, I can remember when Vichai passed in the helicopter accident. That was amazing in the way that it brought fans from all the clubs together. You know, fans from clubs that we traditionally hated were there, you know, for us. And this did the same. This has brought sort of, you know, Leicester fans together with Arsenal fans. I mean, you know, we chat all the time on these different channels and go on each other's shows and what have you. And, you know, this the way that it's brought the fans together, it's just, in a way, it's a good thing. It's the one good thing that's come out of it all.
True. I mean, if anything, this season has shown us that football without fans is nothing. It's half the product, if that. You know, it was bizarre being at the game against Spurs and it being silent when the opposition scored. Even that was just an absolutely bizarre experience. You start looking around and thinking, did that actually go in? Because there was no noise.
Isn't that normal with Spurs, though?
No, it's more to do with Arsenal. I think that's the morgue or whatever it's called, their ground. I think I think even Gareth Bale forgot that there were no fans because he went running off to the corner flag where the fans were when he scored his last goal. But you know, the fans make football, and it was great that they could all come together to fight. You know, not literally, but to show their disagreement. And, you know, I think there's going to be some fallout from it, as there already has been, as you saw at Man United, with the way that that their fans reacted to their own club's involvement in it. And I know they're still talking about whether there's going to be a punishment for the clubs involved. I think at the end of it, the Premier League will probably bottle that one. But it did bring the fans together quite right, Chris, there.
Julian, I mean, as Craig mentioned there, you know, there's all these rumours about what's going to happen to those 6 clubs, and you know, with Spurs and Leicester, when we ended up fighting, would they get a points deduction because they were warned, you know, after the fight with Spurs in 15-16, and they've had 2 warnings since, but Premier League aren't going to start deducting points, and if they do, it's not going to be from this season because everything's finished now.
Yeah, I mean, I think just as an ex-player, for me, if you deduct points, you're punishing the fans, and it was the fans who rallied round and made this, you know, ludicrous thing look ludicrous. You know, and I think what it has shown is how, you know, the passion of the fans was unbelievable. It shows how out of touch the owners of these clubs are with the fans and the clubs. But I feel like, you know, probably a points deduction might be right, but then I think then you're just punishing the fans and probably harming the game, because there's always been, well, we would have won the league if that, and, you know, if we'd have had those points. So I think I've got no problem with the financial or transfers, you know, a transfer ban for a window or whatever it is. So, but I would like to see them get punished, and, you know, the Premier League say, you know, what, we're really not chuffed with what you did, and it was absolutely ridiculous, and you need at least a hefty slap on the wrist. But the points I don't agree with, but there are other means that they could go down that route of.
This is the time when the FA can stand up and show that it's got teeth, Craig.
Yeah, I'm not. You know, I'm on the fence about the points deduction, Julian. Mainly because I think I'm not sure the money would make any difference to these owners.
I agree with that. Yeah,
no. And I think if the points deduction was for one season, let's say they were docked 10 points, still I don't think any of those 6 clubs would be anywhere near a relegation battle. No. But it would make it harder for them to get into a competition they didn't want to be part of. Let's not forget that. And it would give those fans a chance to walk in the shoes of every other fan who are striving to make their way up the league. So I think it would be interesting for one season, but, you know, so I don't necessarily think that the fans would be hurt too much, because I couldn't see anybody getting relegated on the back of it. The only thing I would say, that if it was monetary, that money was given down the leagues, that was not taken into the FA, but that was distributed to League 2, League 1, you know, to help those clubs who were the bedrock of the football pyramid. And, you know, players from the higher teams come from the lower leagues, you know, and so many players who don't make it through the academies end up in the lower leagues. So, you know, to just talk about the Premier League in its own right, I think they have a duty of care to the lower leagues, because that's where so many of their their academy players end up playing. You know, they very few actually make it. So that structure has to be there to give those players somewhere to go and play. So if it was monetary, I'd like to see it filtered down into the lower leagues.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that is a good point. But that is good. But I must admit, I do like Julian's idea maybe of a transfer van, because they might have to use some of the younger players. We'll take a quick break, only 10 seconds, Craig, so you have got time to nip to the loo, and we'll be right back after this.
Leicester Till I Die TV, home of the FA Cup winners.
I think that worked. So, just as another little reminder for Melina there, but yes, we did it. We did it. The first time in our history, we are FA Cup winners. 50 odd years of hurt. Not quite as the song went since we last had an attempt at it, but we are no longer the biggest club not to have won it. You know, we are still the team that's been in it the most without winning it. But hey, the fact that we've won it, there's a couple of albatrosses off the back there. Do you still pinch yourself, Julian, and think, did I see that?
No, I think we were well worthy. The game, I think, panned out as I thought it was. I thought Chelsea would have the upper hand early doors and have a bit of possession. But I think we really, really grew into the game, and I thought second half we were by far the better team. And when the Chelsea goal went in, so disappointed. And then obviously it gets disallowed, which was obviously good for us and not for them. But I thought we managed, even when Chelsea were on top, I thought we managed that really, really well. They didn't have too many clear-cut chances. And like I say, we grew, and as the game went on, I just thought we looked better and better and fully deserved it. I just thought it was a fantastic day, great day to be a Leicester fan.
Yeah, I mean, I was watching it with my son. I know you were there, Craig, and when that second goal went in, I was, believe it or not, all joking aside, on the toilet, and I heard his moans from the lounge, and I'm like, seriously, you know, you winding me up because I've nipped off to the toilet, came back. But when that goal was disallowed, I think our cheer was bigger than the one when we scored.
It was unbelievable. I mean, being at the ground, it was almost heartbreaking, because you knew that all the subs that had been made, they had virtually all of their attacking players on. We'd sort of thrown all our defensive-minded players on, and you thought if that goal had stood, it was going to be really hard for us to get another goal. And that was the immediate thought, was, you know, the only way we're going to get through this is to go to penalties. So good old VAR for coming to our rescue. But I think the reaction was typical of the whole game. You know, the Chelsea fans, you know, and we're a little bit blasé. You know, they've been there so many times in recent years, it becomes almost a second home. I think they've been in 4 of the 5 last cup finals, so it was nothing special to them. So it was quite fitting that I think that we won for the so-called smaller clubs, and it actually meant so much, not only to the fans, but also, as you could see, to the owner. That is something that he really wanted for his dad.
The first time since 2013 that the FA Cup was played before the end of the season, Julian, and that was the season when Wigan beat Manchester City. So maybe this playing it before the end of the season is good for the underdogs.
It looks like it, but I think it's a bit of a shame. I think we talked about it on a previous show that, you know, the FA Cup when I was a young lad was always like the icing on the cake at the end of the season. The season was done. Yeah. Everyone knew where they'd finished, and then we looked forward to quite a big day. So a little bit disappointing in my head as a football person that, you know, it turned out that way. But, you know, the fact that we won it, obviously we're not going to change that for anything.
No. I mean, I said exactly the same. It should be the end of the season, but I'm not complaining now, you know. And we all remember, don't we, Craig? You know, the old Question of Sport FA Cup final special, FA Cup final. It's a knockout. Old Gerald Stinstat with his roving microphone on the coaches on the way to Wembley. Those were the days, eh?
They were. You were just you sat down in the morning, and that was it. You were done for the day, weren't you? Until the end of the game.
Yes. I mean, when we started out against Stoke, we won 4-0. You had no idea that it was gonna end up like this, did we?
No, and just as an aside, I think James Justin was a little bit hard done to not to get goal of the season for that opener against Stoke, because that was a stunning goal from a fullback, to be honest. But no, you didn't think, did you? We had what you would call classic FA Cup banana skins, because I think we followed it up with Brentford, didn't we?
Yes.
So, it wasn't an easy route. I know people touched on we hadn't played any Premier League teams, but in the end, we beat Manchester United and Chelsea. So, it wasn't the easiest of routes to the final. I think we did it the hard way, but the consistency of performance all the way through the FA Cup was really good. We pushed it a little bit against Brighton, didn't we, with that late winner? But overall, it was a fantastic journey.
We were like 2 minutes away from not winning the FA Cup with that, weren't we? But Julian, we still had 3 Premier League teams in there, and I know you say, as Craig says quite rightly, we had the banana skins of Stoke and Brentford, who in themselves, Brentford playoff finalists this year. We could be playing them next season in the league. So it wasn't the easiest run in by any stretch of the imagination.
It wasn't, and I mean, and the FA Cup is an absolute classic for teams slipping up when you don't expect them to. I mean, every year that we watch the FA Cup, they'll look back at all the 1-0s and the Ronnie Radfords and all the old clips that we've seen over and over again.
The Wycombe Wanderers.
What makes the FA Cup absolutely fantastic, though? And I think as a club, when you're in a Premier League club, I don't know if the staff target winning, but as a player, you just think, we'd like to go as far as we can go. And then you get to that interesting point when you're near the quarterfinals, and all of a sudden there's a bit of realism kicks in, and you can start to get a bit excited about it. But and at that point, we came up against the toughest of opponents. So, like I say, if you can win a cup, and on the way you've beat Man United and Chelsea, I think you've done well.
Mm-hmm.
I hope you're watching this, Melina, because we're talking about the FA Cup here, the winners. So she's going to kill me. She really is. She might be coming to London to study. So good luck with your decision on that, Melina. And if you do, give me notice so I can leave the country and hide from you. But now, guys, we'll move on to the next topic. And I gave you notice that we're going to do this. So hopefully maybe you've had a thought. Player of the season. It's a tough one. We know it's been awarded by the club, and those are just examples of players that I've put up there that I think could have been in with a chance. But come to you first, Craig.
Thanks.
Who would your choice have? You're cheaper than Julian. Who are you? Who did you plump for?
Well, it was a tough one. I think there was a few players that needed a mention. I think if he hadn't have got injured, I think James Justin would have been right up there, because for 2/3 of the season he was fantastic. Didn't matter what position you put him in. He was like a breath of fresh air. He was so positive in everything that he did. He made the step up from Luton, unbelievably well. And I think if he'd have carried on in that vein, I think he'd have romped it, to be honest. And but so sadly for him, but hopefully we'll get him back next season. Schmeichel, maybe towards the second half of the season, some saves that were just phenomenal and kept us in games. Youri, I think Youri's probably the easy. I don't want to preempt you, Julian, but I think Youri's probably the easy pick in many ways, because I think his level of consistency throughout the season, he's got more noticeable. People have, noticed him more, I think, in the final third of the season with his goals against Man United in the Cup. Some of his passing has been phenomenal in the latter games. And then with the Cup final goal, I think his stock has risen. But I'm just going to give it to Kelechi, purely because when it looked like we were in a bit of a hole, the guy just stepped up. I don't think anybody would have thought of the number of goals that he would have got for us. I know you can say over a season, if Tielemans hadn't played well, we wouldn't have finished where we were and possibly wouldn't have won the cup. But I think definitely without Kelechi stepping up in the final third of the season, we wouldn't have got anywhere near getting to the last game of the season and still being in with a shout of it. And I looked at some stats. You know, the season's average in terms of goal involvements, goals and assists, he's averaging 1 a game, which is phenomenal, to be honest, at any level. So for me, I'm just going to sneak it and give it to Kelechi.
That I wasn't expecting. A bit like the Spanish Inquisition, for those of you that are old enough to remember it. Nobody expects it. Julian?
I'm just going to go for the easy option, obviously. No, I mean, I take on board what Craig says. I think it was probably a bit of a turning point in the season when they played Kelechi and Vardy together, and all of a sudden the goals come and things clicked, and the formation had to change because of the injuries, you know, with Barnes out, etc. So it was probably a pivotal part of the season. I mean, other players, I mean, I know Kasper Schmeichel will be so disappointed about the last game of the season. I think he is, for me, I wouldn't swap him for any keeper in the Premier League at the moment. I think he's been absolutely amazing, great servant to the club as well. And you can see he's got the club running through his veins. He's a massive club man, really bought into everything that we do. Love Johnny Evans. Fafana been fantastic, you know, but with his youth, you do get, I mentioned this a few times this season, you do get the odd mistakes here and there and quite out of position sometimes. That just comes with games and experience, which, you know, he's gaining that week on week. I mean, the reason I'd go with Tielemans, it's not just like the pleasing on the eye stuff. If you're sort of watching him when the ball's not with him, he's actually still man of the match for me. He's directing traffic. He's pulling people around all the time. If ever anyone's on the ball, he's available. So he just keeps us ticking over. And that's how Brendan wants to play. He wants us to pass short, sharp, crisp passes. He makes himself available all the time. He's a better player for me than Jordan Henderson. But I've always liked Jordan Henderson, even though people think he's quite an ordinary player. He's always available and he keeps the team ticking over. And he's a great mix in that Liverpool squad. And I think Youri's a fantastic mix in this squad. And we would miss him sorely if he's not playing. And I think, again, with the players, he needs the players around him that he's got. You know, and Ndidi, for me, would grace, I think, any team in the Premier League at what he does. He's a fantastic central defensive midfield player. Don't see many better. You know, maybe Rodri at Man City, but so Tielemans has got this support. But at his young age, he understands the game like you'd expect him to be 30 and been playing for years in Champions League and Premier League titles. He seems to have that experience inside him already. Very, very clever. And he must be great for the other players to have on the pitch. And just that's why I'd go for him, not just what he does on the ball, but everything he does when he's not got the ball.
Well, I'm not going to go for the easy option because I sat down with this one. And it's probably, and I think both of you will probably agree with this, it's as long as I can remember, probably the hardest season to actually pick one player out as player of the season. And I've got to say, you know, there's so many, like we were saying, with honourable mentions there. And I did come very, very close to giving it to Kasper because, like you say, it's just, he is Leicester City. You know, I know we always call Alan Birchnell Mr. Leicester City, but Kasper's like the heir to the throne, if you like. I mean, the way he went and got top down to make sure he was on the pitch and celebrating with us all. And it's that sort of thing. And he has made saves, like you say, yes, you know, goalkeepers make mistakes, of course they do, but you know, he's that much in credit with the saves that he's made that have kept us in games, earned us points, won us cup finals with some of his saves. It's amazing, and he was very close. But I might be a little bit controversial here because I'm not actually going to go on the full season, and I'm actually going to go for a player who was injured and therefore didn't play the full season. But I think for the time that he was playing, I think he was absolutely unbelievable. You've already mentioned him, Craig, and that's James Justin.
Yeah.
And I think the fact that he's come through, he's a young player. You know, a couple of seasons ago, he was playing at Luton. You know, I don't know whether they were in the third tier then, or I know they've been the second and they've gone down. But, you know, he did everything that was asked for him and more. Like a lot of our players, like Fafana, you know, old for his years and you know, wise for his years. not unlike yourself, Craig. And I just think it's a shame that he got injured. But taking it for the time that he played, for me, my personal choice, I'd have to go for James Justin, because I just think, I can't add any more to what you said about him earlier, Craig.
Yeah, I mean, it's good that we've all gone for someone different, and we left the easy one to Julian.
Yes.
But you know what I think of Tielemans, Chris. And I know you've only been on with me a couple of times, Julian, but I liken him to, and I'm going to say it again, Chris. He's the quarterback on the pitch for me.
I've been waiting. I was timing it.
But he does, everything you said, Julian, I agree with. Everything goes through him. He's like the manager on the pitch. Yeah. You do see him, you do see him pulling and pushing people around. He's intelligent. And I think that's what makes the difference between good players and great players. Every player, if you're playing at that level, you should have, football skills. It's the intelligence that takes you to the next level, and he's a really, really clever and intelligent player. And if we can hang on to it for another 1 or 2 seasons, then I think it's great for us. I think he's destined for bigger places.
Intelligence, that's why I've not moved on from this level. That's what it is. Julian, captain, I mean, we've mentioned captains before. Schmeichel, and no criticism of him, it's just not my personal choice to have a captain as a goalkeeper. But Tielemans is he's not a Roy Keane, he's not a that sort of a captain. And whether you can have that sort of a captain these days or not is questionable. He's very much sort of a David Beckham sort of captain. He leads by example. He has a quiet word rather than a yelling. But, like Craig said, he does, to quote Craig, he's like that quarterback on the pitch. He is, I can't believe I quoted you there, Craig. Bloody hell. It had to happen. Could you see him as a future captain?
Of course, I've just seen a comment from a David S. who just said the same thing, and I do agree. I'm not a fan of keepers being, captain on the pitch. I just think that for me, if you wanted Casper to be the captain, I think make him club captain as Wes has been. But on that pitch, for me, it's got to be Youri. But having said that, some players they don't mind that fight. I mean, we always talk in our day that you should have like 11 captains on the pitch, but there are people who haven't got that personality. There are people they'll know the game, but they just get on with the game and they'll listen to anything else, and they don't really, say a deal. And when someone's naturally got it, you really want them to come to the fore. And I think that's what he does. So I mean, I think as Wes has gone, Casper, great choice for club captain, but. Yeah, I'd like to see someone. I like to see someone on the pitch who's actually in the midst of everything that's going off and can really see it close at hand to be the one giving the directions. And I really do think he does it perfectly.
That leads us people might start to think that this show is actually organised here, because it's very neat, which it totally isn't, believe you me. It leads us nicely on to the next thing, and I'm interested in Craig's view, because Craig was at the match, but. It was strange that a player did what Youri did, and I haven't seen it, but allegedly did at the end of the game when they're not leaving. Is this goodbye Youri, Craig?
It was. It's difficult. You can read it 2 ways, and I'd like to read it more of a positive way. But I remember saying, at the end of the game, all the players did the usual handshaking, and then they all went in because they knew they were coming back out with the cup. Even then, Youri stayed out and went around the pitch, clapping all the fans. And then when he had to come back out to collect that Player of the Year award, you could see that he was emotional, he was upset. So you can read it as a goodbye. If I've got my positive hat on, you can read it as just really being disappointed, like all the fans are, that we didn't get over the line, that we put so much into it and we didn't get over the line. And I like to think that was it. That was what he was thinking. That's what he was feeling at the time. And almost that walk around was an apology of sorts, that we didn't get it over the line. There's going to be suitors for him, I think.
Yeah.
Sorry, Chris.
No, carry on, Craig. Sorry.
Yeah, there's definitely going to be suitors for him. And I think, if he has a good Euros as well, that's even going to make it even worse. I think the good thing is that we've got him on a contract. I know we're trying to improve it and give him a better contract. Wouldn't it be great for all Leicester fans that going into the Euros, he signs that contract? That would be fantastic for all of us. So I don't think we'd let him go on the cheap. I think what this is a real test of Brendan's managerial talent and also his relationship with Top, because if you saw at the end of the cup final when he came down, Top and Youri had a really big embrace as well. So I think Top realises how important Youri is, and I think Youri's got that respect for Top. You would like to think in this day and age that with all that's gone on with the ESL, that actually means something and that counts for something, and that he would hang around for at least another season.
Julian, I mean, he's already turned Man United down for us when we signed him permanently. We do know we are no longer a selling club. And, I've been on various Arsenal and Tottenham forums talking about managers and players that might leave us and go to them because of who they are and their history. But, if anybody wants him, we know, Maguire, Chilwell, we will sell players. But, if somebody comes in and offers us 100 million for Tielemans, as good as he is, you're not going to turn it down, are you?
No, you're not. And it's a ridiculous amount of money, and it raises all sorts of questions. And, I agree with Craig. I hope he signs his contract and stays. And I'm not sure where he would go that would benefit him as a footballer. And sometimes, like I said, we've talked about the owners before. Sometimes it's the pound notes that sway people. And in this day and age with the contracts that they're currently on, the pound note shouldn't even be a consideration. It should be what's best for my football. Would he be wanting to play Champions League football next season? It's a sentiment that I've never agreed with footballers saying they want Champions League football and they deserve Champions League football. I just think you can be at a club, you can be well thought of by everybody at the club, managers, owners, fans, everything, and you can take yourself into a totally different scenario with a team that plays differently, a manager that's different to what you're used to. Yeah, the money's a compensation then, but do you really enjoy the football as much as you were? I think right now he's enjoying himself, and I think he needs to think really hard about whether he'd like to change, the situation that he's in now. But obviously people do get their heads turned by the bigger clubs, and that's the unfortunate thing for us at the moment, because we would need an awful lot of investment to be, really on a level peg with, the bigger clubs around us.
I think it's a good. Sorry, Chris. I think it's a good point that he makes. Particularly at this stage of his career where he's just being noticed, he needs to be playing. And then you look around at the teams, particularly in the Premier League, where he may go. Would he get into the Manchester United side when they have Pogba and Fernandes? You would think one of those would have to give way. Would he get in the Manchester City side? I think he's good enough. He's not going to dislodge Kevin De Bruyne. The way that Pep likes to play, he likes to have that holding midfielder. That's not really Youri's thing. I think he's good enough to get in that team. Whether he would and whether he would play enough, I'm not sure. Chelsea, I don't think would suit him. So I think he's limited in terms of the number of players places that he could go. I think he's a ready-made replacement for Wijnaldum at Liverpool, which for me would be the most dangerous one out of all of them in terms of whether somebody came for him. But you're right. You've only got to mention somebody like, let's say, Donny van der Beek, who had a fantastic last few seasons at Ajax, has gone into Man United, and it's just not worked for him. I can assure you, I don't know the guy, but let me say, okay, I can guess that the fact that Manchester United in the Premier League is in the Champions League doesn't make Van der Beek feel any better about his prospects next season.
Julian, we're in a position where we didn't make Champions League, so people are saying to us like, "Oh, we're not going to be able to attract the big stars, and the players that we wanted to go for aren't going to come to us." But looking at Leicester, I mean, last time we were in the Premier, we were in the Champions League. Ranieri went out and signed some real duffers, and we've still got some of them on the books now that are coming back on loan. I keep thinking we'd sold Gazelle, but apparently we only got rid of him on loan for a season. But so there's these players that we're stuck with, and buying big, spending a lot of money doesn't always guarantee that you're going to get decent players. And you're not telling me that Fofana. Fofana came to us, we weren't in the Champions League. All these players in the past, Tielemans, Castagna, they all came to us, although the fact that we're not in the Champions League. And I don't think with our scouting system and the fact that we can go and find players like Fofana and players like that, it doesn't make a difference whether we're in the Europa, the Champions, or whatever.
No, but I think you sort of have to look at that type of player, and I'm not talking them down at all because they're all excellent players that you've just mentioned. But the young and up and coming, they're not established, and that's probably where I think the recruitment at Leicester City has been absolutely unbelievable, because we can all see someone and see some ability in someone. Can he take it to that next level? And it seems that everyone we've recruited can do. Look at Justin coming from Luton. He does not look out of place when he's playing. And obviously, again, you've picked him as your player of the season. And, I don't wholeheartedly disagree with it. I agree with what you said about the periods that, he was in the team. But our recruitment has been based on those that we can see going to the next stage. And it can't be looked that that all the signings seem to have stepped up, into that category. And the problem for us is that when they do become established in a team that's finishing fifth in the Premier League, so obviously very competitive, that's won the FA Cup, that's qualified for the Europa League, that is when we have the problem of the so-called bigger clubs coming in for them. With Tielemans, I wouldn't know why he would go to anyone other than I'd rule out Arsenal and Tottenham, because again I don't feel like they're going to have a good season next year. They're not even prepared for next season, whereas we are. Talking about Man City, I sort of agree with Craig, he'd get in, but I mean, I've got to be honest, the Rodri, Gundogan and De Bruyne trio is like unbelievable. So I think when he decided to come to us instead of Man United, he probably looked at that and thought, where am I going to get my opportunities? And that's also something I think players should think of, and they probably don't, is the fact that he would have talked to Brendan, he would listen to Brendan and say, Brendan's great at talking to players. He's sold him the dream. He's took that dream and it's worked out fantastically for him. And that's something he really ought to think about, again, as the fact that, he's only 23 years of age. So I think he'd be a fool to look at anywhere else in England, if I'm honest. And, maybe if one of the big, European clubs came in for him, that might be a consideration to go and look at that for him. But right now, for him, he's in a fantastic place at a club that most fans up and down the country envy Leicester City and the club that it is and what it represents and stands for and what we're achieving, season after season. So for me, sign a new contract, Youri, get your head down. Let's see what the next couple of seasons come. And, in 2 years' time, he's going to be 25, 26, coming not even at his peak. And if he wants the big move, it's going to come for him.
Yeah. Craig, I mean, Leicester City have this knack of going out, buying players, reasonably at good value and selling them on for vast amounts of money. When these other big clubs, if they had decent scouting networks, they could do that themselves. I mean, Man United could have paid, was it 90 million that we paid for Maguire? Instead, they didn't go for him and they paid 80 million because they seem to be lazy and can't be bothered to do the proper scouting that we're doing. But is the way forward for Leicester, is it to buy the players like Fofana, like Justin, that are young and hungry and show great potential, or going out a la Jose and buying the ready-made player at 3 or 4 times as much money?
I think we have to be realistic about who we are as a club, and for me, we're doing it the right way. I think you could say that the bigger clubs are lazy, but I think in the way they're run and what's on the line for them in terms of their money, I think they're just reluctant to take a chance. I think that's what it is. So they use almost the clubs like Leicester to give these players 2 or 3 years of Premier League experience, and then they accept that they're going to have to pay more, but they're not taking the risk. Manchester United in particular, I mean, I don't think what's happened in the last season is going to change that. You could say they've taken a risk with Van der Beek. That's not worked out. That's going to make them reluctant to probably do the same again. The only one that they probably took a risk on was young Daniel James, I think it is, from Swansea, and that's not really worked out either. So I think our model for the size of club we are right now is the right way to go. Spot the talent that's hungry, that wants a stage, and we're perfectly, or the perfect club to give them that stage, because they're not going to be in a relegation battle. Mm-hmm. They're at the right end of the Premier League. They get the opportunity to show how good they are. And then when the time comes, as Julian said, when you're in your prime, then you can make your big move. The thing that we've got to try and do is take that next step, so we are getting ourselves in the Champions League on a regular basis. But for right now, I think our method, our project is the perfect way to go, and we should continue to do it. And you know very well that we're probably already looking for the next Youri Tielemans.
Yeah,
I think on the back of that as well, Craig, is that, you know, the Man United and the other bigger clubs, supposedly bigger clubs, the pressure on their managers when they're actually, everything they do is under the spotlight. And so when they sign a player, for them, there can't be any risk. And, you know, Fofana would have been a risk. Tielemans would have been a risk. You know, James Justin would certainly have been a risk. We've had faith in these players, knowing that we can bring them through, and they've absolutely performed and not looked out of place at that level. But if someone like Solskjaer does that at Man United and it doesn't work out, the first thing that people look at is, well, you signed him. And then there's also this accountability of you as a manager. And that's why I think they go for, you know, tried and tested, which means they're normally spending money on people 25 plus, and sometimes maybe have gone, you know, a bit over the top, or, you know, past the best. But that's the pressure they're under. And right now, I agree with you, Craig. We're in that position where what we're doing is perfectly good. One day, maybe we might have a bit more buying power and a bit more funds when we are Champions League regular. But right now, you know, what they're doing on the recruitment side is absolutely perfect for this, you know, the stability of the club.
Very kindly there, Julian, leading me on to our last topic. I'll send you the check. You're doing well for me here, and that is Craig's team. Oh, no, it's not. Sorry, that's the wrong show. Sorry, that's the wrong show. Talking about managers being under pressure. What next for Brendan? I mean, you know, you can see the pictures there. The players seem to love him, or maybe they were hoping they might drop him. Actually, I don't know. But Top and Brendan hugging there. He's being linked, as I guess. You know, we've got to remember, I suppose, Leicester is Leicester, and you know, we're getting linked. All our players are going to be linked. We're going to be left with a five-a-side team as normal if the papers are right. Brendan's been linked with Spurs, and there was the old conspiracy theory that if Spurs beat us, we wouldn't be in the Champions League, so it'd be easy for them to get him off us. We just spoke about Youri possibly going. Could you see Brendan going in this summer?
No, not at all. I don't think there's any chance of him going at all, to be honest. I mean, I don't, you know, for the real big clubs, and I apologise to TM and Melina, as it stands at the minute, Arsenal and Spurs are not in that bracket. You know, they've got rebuilding jobs to do. The bigger clubs, you know, they're pretty well set. You know, Brendan hasn't proved himself enough yet for me. Let's not forget, in Premier League terms, Brendan's still, you know, quite a youthful manager in terms of the number of years and seasons he's had here. He had a little bit with Swansea. You know, the rest of his and the time at Liverpool, obviously, which, you know, he's almost had to rebuild his reputation that he did with Celtic and now with us. I think, as Youri would be almost foolish to move, I think Brendan would. He's in a fantastic position. He's got all the facilities he wants. He's got a chairman who listens to him and trusts him. You know, he's not like a Daniel Levy who wants to make all the decisions himself, or remote owners in the States. It's a perfect scenario for Brendan to build something here, and he would be absolutely foolish to go anywhere else. I think he's got a big season coming up or a big close season, because when all of our players are fit, somehow he's got to get that jigsaw right. You know, the formation that we stumbled across was almost, just because of the players that we had left. When you've got James Justin back fully fit, when you've got Harvey Barnes fully fit, he's got to try and find a way to get all of these players gelled into a team that works. So it's a big season for him, and I think he'd be foolish to go anywhere else.
Melina, agreeing with somebody there, that's a first, and yeah, I think we do recall that we won the FA Cup. But thanks for reminding us again. One, you will come back. It might not be in my lifetime, Melina, but Arsenal will come back. Julian, Brendan, I think he's got to tread carefully because he's come back down here to win things, to prove himself at this level. Yes, I mean, he did what he did in Scotland. It was, he had a fantastic record up there, but Celtic Rangers, well, St Johnstone at the moment with the Cups, but they're always going to do well. And of course, for a lot of the time, Rangers were sort of in the lower divisions because of the punishment. So he's having to prove himself. Yeah, he's got the FA Cup, so that's a little bit of proof he's got in there. But he's got to be careful he doesn't leave too quickly, and he gets that reputation. We left Celtic to come to us early, and I totally understand because I think he learned so much more in those 10 games than a load of pre-season friendlies. But he has got to be careful, and if he jumps ship now, and no disrespect to them, gets an Arsenal or a Tottenham, if he stays, stays and in 3 or 4 years' time, we've been in the Champions League positions every season, maybe won another trophy, he could actually go to bigger clubs than them abroad.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Craig. He'd be an absolute mug if he left Leicester right now. It's the support he's got, not just from obviously all of us and the players. He's got the players on his team, the owners on his team. Everything is really geared for him to. It's still a work in progress for him. And you've got to bear in mind that, yeah, he did really well at Swansea, but that Swansea were never going to be a Leicester. So it was probably right that he moved on from that because he did a cracking job. But then he's had the harshness of a Liverpool. He's been to one of the clubs that was in this ESL, and that's how owners deal with people. And for me, I thought they cut him really short when they let him go. And he's had to go away to Celtic, and then come back and, like you say, reinvent himself down here. But there's nowhere for me that he can go that can actually enhance what he's already done. And I say it again about the way the owners are supporting the club and him. He'll not have that, I don't think, ever again in his managerial career, because I don't know anyone like the owners of Leicester. They just absolutely set themselves apart from every other owner. And that's why I say people look at us with absolute envy, wishing that they had people running the club like they do. So, again, to leave that behind and go back to a scenario like he had at Liverpool where he came close, didn't get over the line, and next minute he's out of the door. I don't even know why you'd invite that when you've got something that now that he's got the chance to build and he's building, and we're still building as we go, and it's ongoing and it's positive and it's getting better season after season. It might be only slight improvements every season, but he has got the tools now to really show people what a great manager and coach he is, and he's doing that at the moment. And while he's doing it, I don't know why he'd change that. Why he'd change that environment?
It's both of you here, either or. It's just a great time to be a Leicester fan, isn't it?
Absolutely.
It is.
Yes, it is indeed. Guys, thank you very much for coming on. It was not a bad season, like I said right at the start. To be honest with you, we've had worse.
You said you weren't going to talk about when I played, Chris.
No, I wasn't going to say that. But funnily enough, you have agreed to do a 1-to-1, so we can talk about when you played. That will come up in there.
5 minutes that one, Chris, I'll tell you.
Let me know when that is. Let me know when that is, Chris, because I want to be on with my questions.
I'm trying to put a highlights little list down here as well. So, but I'm there at the moment. But sorry, Julian, I'm joking. But no, Julian, thanks so much for coming on. I appreciate you giving your golf up to date for us. And
no worries.
I will speak to you sort of over the next day or so, and we'll get a date arranged when we can do that show. Thanks very much, Julian. All the best to you and your family. Thanks for everything
guys.
you've done this season. It's been brilliant. I knew we'd have a drink. I'm sorry if you let me know next time. I'll stick a few more breaks in for you. See, this week.
I just want to know. I just want to know if that dishwasher's been emptied this time.
That's my only job that I've got. I normally fail at that, so I'm in the doghouse again.
Julian Watts, the Paul Gascoigne of Leicester City. What can I say? On that note, Julian, all the best to everybody. Thanks for everything this season. Stay safe, and I'll speak to you in a day. So,
cheers,
thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Cheers. Thank you. He's off to have a well-deserved drink there, I think. And I don't think that was tonic water by any chance. Do you, Craig?
No, a bit like yours. You're fooling no one, Chris, with yours.
What do you mean? That is water. What else would I have in a bottle like that?
Yeah, we know.
We know. Craig, my wise old sage, thank you so much. And
pleasure as always.
We've got shows planned during the summer, so I will be in touch. Obviously, we're hopefully doing two a week at the most. We're going to try and slow things down a little bit and have a break. It was great last night. I was actually able. I got comfy, left the computer off, left my phone in here, and just watched an episode or two of Vikings. So it was.
Wow.
We love football, but the end of the season's always good, isn't it?
You're in demand anyway. You'll be on Talk Sport and God knows what. So I'm sure you'll be busy, Chris.
Who knows? I will remember you, though, sir. I will remember you.
Cheers,
Craig, thanks very much, mate. Take care. Stay safe.
Thanks a lot. Cheers, Chris. Bye, everyone.
Cheers. Goodbye. Thanks to Craig there, our wise old sage. Yes, Michael, I do like a tipple of gin. It has been known to pass my lips. It's more known actually not to even touch the lips and just go straight down some days, I'll tell you. But we won't go there. Thanks to Mel for popping in and modding for me in the chat. Mel. Yeah, Mel. Yeah, okay. Won't mention it again till tomorrow. Guys, thanks so much. We're actually going to be back on Thursday at 7:00. We're going to be doing a Rate the Players. So that's something to look forward to. We're going to look at each player, see how they've done all season and give them a rating and see whether they're good, bad, indifferent, or should we get rid of them, basically. So that's going to come Thursday, 7:00 live. Just need to dot the I's and cross the T's with that one. And if you want to catch up, just trying to get rid of Michael's comment there. Don't know why it won't go. If you do want to catch up with us, there we go. We are on Facebook, Leicester Till I Die TV. Please give us a like and a subscribe. We would be loving you forever. But if you want to listen to us rather than watch us, and be honest with you, I don't blame you. We're not oil paintings here, are we? You can listen to the podcast of our shows on Anchor FM, Google, Amazon Music, Apple iTunes, Spotify, and Podcast Addict. If you've got a smart speaker, just say play Leicester Till I Die podcast, and it should do that for you. Just give us about an hour to upload each show after we've finished. Guys, thanks very much for tuning in. Wouldn't be worth doing it without you. It's been great. Thanks to Julian. Thanks to Craig. I'll see you Thursday at 7 with the player review of the season. Stay safe. Cheers.
Hello,
now.
Matt Elliott here. Be sure to watch Leicester Till I Die TV on YouTube and follow all their social media platforms for all the latest updates and news on Leicester City Football Club.
Thanks for watching Leicester Till I Die. This is Chris saying goodbye and see you next time.
Some people are on the pitch, they think it's all over. It is now.